Greetings. This video will act as a summary of the claims made against Creepshow art by Emily Artful and the recent drama Creepshow has found herself in. Before we officially begin this video, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to my channel and like this video if you enjoy this kind of content. If you hit the bell icon, you'll even make me blush. The goal of my channel is to give every side of an argument a fair defense and to judge situations accurately and based on evidence. For anyone wondering why I do this, it's purely because ranters are often biased and attack creators blindly, and I aim to bring you content of a higher level of quality than that sort of thing. I also want to eventually talk about a variety of topics that don't include drama, with small uploads here and there to discuss horror-related content or to read scary stories as well. The link to my Ko-Fi can be found below. Please consider donating if you have a few dollars to spare. Every single cent donated to me will go directly back into making this content better in every way possible. Let's get to the summary. Creepshow art has allegedly been found posting indecently on lolco, a forum meant for internet drama and gossip about various creators and public figures. Her IP address has been linked directly to posts where she had allegedly been talking about herself in third person in order to start drama with, literally herself. She had allegedly been gossiping about other creators behind their back, using racial and homophobic slurs and making hateful comments about people's skin and bodies. She had allegedly been self-posting, trashing friends, attacking other creators, doxing, using slurs, being homophobic, and worse for multiple years, using several different accounts. The worst part about this is that she makes content where she judges the morality of others while allegedly doing all of this behind the scenes. Arguably, you can be a hypocrite and not take your own advice just on the premise of that being a very difficult thing to do, but this is on a whole other level. But it gets worse. Much worse. If you haven't watched Emily's video yet, and if you would like to see every allegation of stalking, harassing, and threatening in detail, rather than a summarized version, or if you'd prefer to just generally see that video before this one, a card will pop up on screen now for you to click, and it will lead you to Emily's video. Emily's claims are a lot. Emily's video is about 2 hours long, and so, the goal of this video is to summarize everything into a version that will be less than 15 minutes long. You must know two things at the start of this. Emily is a former drug addict with a difficult past. If I see a single comment judging her for this, it will be removed, and you will be blocked from my channel. The last thing I want is for Emily to potentially relapse or feel further unnecessary guilt. She has recovered. Drug addicts are not usually addicts for the party life, and it's an issue that goes deeper than just fun. Next, all of this is alleged. These are all claims made by one person about another person. This video will be broken up into 3 sections, where the allegations will be described and then discussed. 1. Creepshow art has been the stalker this whole time. On numerous occasions, Creepshow art, or Shannon, has talked about being stalked for over 8 years by a single woman with a child. But within her video, Emily claims that actually, Creepshow was the one who was stalking and harassing her for about a decade, and then stole her story, stole literally everything she did to Emily, and talked about it as if it had happened to her. That way, if Emily ever came out and talked about it, it would sound as if she is copying Creepshow art, not the other way around. It seems to have been a method of silencing her. In fact, Emily mentioned her stalking on Twitter first, and 3 days after, Creepshow came out with a video about her experience with being stalked for over 8 years. This stalking started with a man named Anthony. Anthony is believed to be Creepshow's husband, and he is also directly involved in all of this. Apparently, he was the one who has started the stalking after breaking up with Emily because she had casually commented on a gay woman's Facebook picture in regards to her looking good. Creepshow joined in when she started dating him. This is apparently a man who went as far as to break into Emily's house to sexually abuse her one night while she was high on heroin, according to Emily's testimony. He even went as far as to threaten Emily's safety one day by acting like a pseudo-Hannibal and using flowery language while snapchatting her, coming closer and closer to the location where Emily lives, acting as if he was a genuine threat to her safety and her family's safety. This was so frightening to Emily that she was preparing for him with an actual gun. Frankly, I do have to say that this was incredibly cringy to read as an outsider. Anthony is literally called Steal the Hedgehog and I hate it. Insert man dies.png. 2. Creepshow art has been harassing Emily this entire time. Creepshow also used to comment on Emily's videos and DM her in order to harass her over her uploads, or to generally get a reaction out of her. Notably, it was always either hate comments, calling her a bad mother, or situations meant to test Emily emotionally, which all seems too oddly specific to be any old stranger, now that we have the full context of how Creepshow allegedly behaves online. For example, after Emily first joined YouTube, she started a series called Sketchbook Storytime. Creepshow also started a series by the same name, claiming to have gotten permission from LaMontserrat. Emily messaged Creepshow to ask her to change the name. This was a customary thing to do for artists, especially after spending time on DeviantArt, where all artists are conditioned to defend their property. Right afterwards, an anonymous account seemed to want to prompt drama between Emily and Creepshow over this, almost trying to get Emily to say something mean about Creepshow. Emily didn't say anything rude, of course, which prompted an almost strangely disappointed response, or one that seemed too strained in general. Then, an account went on lolco to claim Emily as bullying small creators. Generally, for years upon years, there have been a lot of hate comments or comments attempting to instigate drama on Emily's videos made by new, empty accounts with strange names. This has even extended to real life, where random accounts have left bad reviews on her business to discredit her work. Screenshots of some of these comments will be linked below. Emily has also been threatened with indecent pictures she took when she was a minor at the age of 15, which Anthony got access to via phishing. This is literally possession of cheese pizza. That is the end of my loose summary of Emily's video. The next sections will discuss the validity of the claims. 3. Is all of this true? In this section, I will tell you what we actually have proof of. We have some proof that the lolco IPs do belong to Creepshow, meaning the posts are likely to be hers. She has also confirmed that the IP is indeed hers. I will link the lolco thread below. Creepshow's stalking story came after Emily began talking about her experience with being stalked for 8+ years. 3 days after, in fact. We have proof supporting that Emily was being harassed by various accounts, many of which do have a similar tone and topography to Anthony and Creepshow. Many of these comments are about trying to start drama between Emily and Creepshow, or about things meant specifically to hurt Emily, which seems very, very suspicious. I mean, what are the chances of 2 random trolls latching onto this creator to bully her about random things that would offend her? What are the chances of these random people constantly bringing up Creepshow to Emily? We have proof of accounts that have a similar tone and topography to Anthony and Creepshow leaving negative reviews on her business to impact or ruin any hope she has in her real life. We have proof that Creepshow was homeless with Anthony by choice and not by circumstance. The fact that Creepshow often uses her homelessness to garner sympathy despite being homeless by choice is frankly very manipulative. You can see examples of her doing this often in her videos. This is one of the first indications of Creepshow being an untrustworthy person, because when someone claims to be having a hard time despite choosing to have a hard time, especially when they gain something from doing it, it becomes obvious that they are willing to twist and withhold the truth for benefits. We do have screenshots capturing the moment that Anthony was coming close to where Emily lives, while taunting her. However, they seem to be rather out of context. Creepshow has nicknamed her stalker Amy. Now bear with me here, this gets psychological. This in and of itself can be used lightly as evidence that Creepshow is attempting to make Emily the stalker. You see, there is a connection between the motor cortex and the auditory cortex, and my theory is that when we hear a familiar sound, our motor cortex wants to mirror the sound or phrase through our expression. So, if we say cat and we need to come up with a moniker for this word, we may say kit, nat, cat, simply because of this mirroring effect. Now I may be misattributing this to something that is only a small part of this greater speech system, but we can all agree that we have seen the effects of this pattern, especially in toddlers or children. The nicknames people give others that they talk about function similarly. Amy is far too close for Emily. I don't have a proper term for this effect, but if anyone happens to know what I'm talking about, be sure to comment below. I read every single comment. Things we do not have proof of. The assault by Anthony, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The Snapchat stalking incident being 100% Anthony and in the context of a genuine threat, beyond a shadow of a doubt. The YouTube comments and various DMs being either Anthony or Creepshow, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Any proof from Creepshow that she was stalked by Amy. Final part. Conclusion. 90% of me is leaning towards believing Emily. But then there is a tiny part of me, about 10%, that is skeptical, because stalkers can also go to truly extreme lengths to get what they want. For example, what if this was an incredibly elaborate plan by a deranged stalker to frame Creepshow by spoofing her IP for years upon years in horribly elaborate ways in order to dig Creepshow into this hole of a situation, setting up her own stalking story before Creepshow could talk about hers, setting up all of those drama and harassment comments and everything on lolco to make Shannon look like a complete self-posting loser and abusive stalker that supports her crazy, power-hungry freak of a boyfriend. But you can definitely see how that would be an immense stretch. I have compiled all of the screenshots given to us by Emily and all of the anonymous comments left on her videos in a Dropbox that I will link to below. This will be public unless Emily asks me to remove it, as all of it is Emily's property that she has made public. I will be updating this Dropbox with any new evidence and public comments. If any fellow ranters would like to add anything, or edit the Dropbox, please DM me either here or on Twitter, better option, and I will add you to my team there. Until Creepshow does something, I have nothing truly conclusive to say, other than we should be collecting our own evidence, and waiting for a proper reply, and proof that concludes this situation. One thing I do have to say, is that if it turns out that Creepshow Art and Anthony are the stalkers, and both have done all of this beyond a shadow of a doubt, then they must be immediately deplatformed. Creepshow and her boyfriend's home must be searched for CP, and they should be facing a jail sentence for possession of illegal material. This is by far worse than any other situation I have encountered, because it puts not only a person at risk of physical harm and mental harm, but it also put their children in severe risk. Not only at the moment due to everything happening, but also in the future, as I can't imagine the stalker being a very healthy person to take care of a child, frankly speaking. To avoid putting the stalker into a situation in which they are likely to only worsen their actions and lash out, once it is fully confirmed, I recommend that we the community react passively to them, and to not engage with their content, aside for perhaps disliking and advising other people to do the same and ignore them, or block them everywhere. This is a time in which we must band together, and be patient for the outcome, and for a proper statement from Creepshow or her attorneys. Stay positive, my friends, and use this time to show appreciation for the artists in your life who have been supportive towards others, and fair.